Welcome to the Making Health Dooable podcast. I'm Cheryl Borchardt.
And I'm Sarah Shaw.
And together we're your hosts on this journey as you learn what it takes to live well.
We are dedicated to tackling topics that empower you to make massive progress in your health and wellness journey by using our pillars of health: eat well, move well, live well, and respond well.
At Dooable Health, our mission is simple: to help everyone live well. As a team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts, we're here to serve employees and first responders with coaching, workshops, and masterclasses designed to conquer stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our dedication doesn't stop there. We're also committed to improving wellness for individuals like you by offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual seeking better health, we believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So join us as we embark on this journey together, where we'll provide you with the tools, insights, and encouragement you need to thrive.
And stay tuned for enlightening discussions, expert interviews, and actionable advice that will inspire you to take charge of your well-being and live your best life.
Until next time, remember, life can feel better when health is made doable.
Before we begin, we have an exciting new offering from Dooable Health: at-home lab testing with our integrative health practitioner, Janine Finelli.
I'm Janine Finelli, integrative health practitioner, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, and VP at Dooable Health. We offer at-home functional lab testing for individuals to test and not guess when it comes to their health. Whether you are interested in a deep dive under the hood because you love to geek out on numbers and want to really focus on moving forward with prevention, or you have symptoms, brain fog, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, insomnia, low or no libido, water retention, headaches, all sorts of things that you just cannot figure out where they're coming from, through our at-home functional medicine lab testing with the best of the best labs out there, we can help give you answers. Schedule your initial consult with me so you can test and not guess by going online at doable.com/test. And for a limited time, get 10% off your initial consultation by using the code PODCAST in the checkout screen. doable.com/test.
Welcome, everybody. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing Dooable Health and its beginnings and our pillars of health, which are eat well, move well, and live well. So today we're joined by Dooable Health's co-founder and CEO, Dr. Joe Jenkins. As a native North Carolinian, Dr. Jenkins earned his MD and JD from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He practiced urology for a number of years and has led private and public businesses relating to access to care, insurance coverage, difficult ethical choices, and in the treatment and prevention of disease. Welcome, Dr. Joe.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's great to be here. This is exciting. So I'm delighted to get a chance to visit with you and the audience.
Absolutely. And as we lovingly call him Dr. Joe, you may hear me do that as well. So, Dr. Joe, tell us something that has made you belly laugh recently.
Well, this is agonizing for me, but as a urologist, and let me apologize to the audience before I tell this story, and I hope you will enjoy it. But as a urologist, of course, I deal with a lot of different personal matters. But recently, my best friend was seriously ill in the hospital here in Chapel Hill. And so as he was in a coma for 2 or 3 weeks, and as he started to come out of it, and my wife Shipley went to see him. He's a great friend. His family was staying with us while he was in the intensive care unit. And so went to see him, and he was waking up, and for the first time he recognized me. And he said, "Joe, I need your help." And he kind of talked very slow. I need your help. And I said, yeah, well, what is it? And he said, you're a urologist. I said, yes, that's right. He said, you're world famous. I said, I'm not sure about that, but he said, I need help. I said, with what? He said, my pinky. And so his brother was there and started laughing, and Shipley started laughing, and his wife left the room. And so he said, my pinky. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I've got this catheter. I said, I know you've got this catheter. He said, I'm worried about my pinky. He said, you're a pinky expert. Check my pinky out. His brother left. I said, I'm world famous, but I no longer check pinkies. And I left to talk to a nurse. And as I left, I heard him say, Shipley, I think you're in to check my pinky. We were laughing so hard, Joe. And then, and he had a sense of humor about it. But anyway, we got through it. That was the last belly laugh. And then in the intensive care unit of hospitals, there you go.
Well, thanks for making me belly laugh too. That was, the pinky expert. Well, and thanks for helping us break the ice too.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, how did you decide to start a company focused on employee health after practicing urology for so long?
Well, the credit goes, as you mentioned, I'm a co-founder. And so one day, Dr. B.J. Lawson, who's the other co-founder, called me and just said, do you think we can make a difference in healthcare? That was the question. And so we talked about what a mess healthcare was, and could we make a difference? We started looking at data, which is kind of part of our background. And when you look at the 1965 to 2000 data on healthcare and obesity and hypertension and the so-called metabolic syndrome, you just kind of go, how did this happen? I mean, in 1965, 12% of the country was obese, and today it's hitting it at 50%. So when you look at that, you ask the question, how did chronic disease take over the United States? Because the cost of that to our society, both individually, corporately, is unsustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question was, could we make a difference? And if we were going to make a difference, how were we going to do it?
Yeah. And as our listeners are going to learn about us, we are focused on helping to restore health. And that's, a main reason that our company does what it does. And so you'll hear about that throughout this podcast. And when we talk with other guests, that's always our focus, is to focus on root cause and how do we help people get out of this model of just treating symptoms and just, continuing to go down a path of unwellness. And so we're excited to learn more about that from you. So as you were forming the company and getting underway, tell us a little bit about how you designed the pillars of health that Doable Health follows, that eat well, move well, live well.
Well, it's interesting that when you look at the data, okay, when you look at, all right, every 5 years, the USDA comes out with food guidelines for all of us, and we all followed it religiously. And when you looked at those, you realize in 1980, a transition occurred. And wasn't it ironic that as we said, you know what, our problem, as the USDA said, the problem is Americans eat too much fat, get cholesterol. Mm-hmm. So our health problems were related to too much fat. Well, what do? Well, you only have two other choices, protein and carbohydrates. You can't eat but so much protein. So therefore, what happens? What does every food manufacturer do? They load carbohydrates in, and we're talking about processed carbohydrates. So I think that when we looked at that data, we said, we got to start with what people eat. Because if they don't understand how we got there, then they can't make a change. And you and I know how hard change is.
Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely.
can tell you that smoking a cigarette it's got a really good chance of leading you to pulmonary problems and maybe cancer. But it's so hard to stop. And so food is the same way. And so we saw societies that the disease just skyrocketed because of what we're eating. So eat well was simple. Move well is intuitive. It's intuitive because we can look at somebody walking down the street and somebody who is in good shape and can move. It just seems to be enjoying life a whole lot more and can do things that other people can't. And it has to do with children and do with picking up groceries. It's not just, getting on a treadmill. It's learning how to lift something without putting the stress on your back. It's learning about how to move. And it just so happens that one of our core coaches was particularly interested in movement. So that really helped. Now, the live well piece is a little bit harder. Hard as a surgeon, as a doctor, my co-founder was embedded in the neurosurgical world. We thought it's all about eating and moving. And then one of the other core person in our team, who was a health coach, started talking about the living well. And you're going to interview both of those, Coach Sarah and Coach Janine. So Coach Janine started talking about live well. And honestly, us scientists thought, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
As we learned and watched health coaching, and I'll never forget the day that we came down to Augusta and met you. Went out to the company, and I said to myself, nobody's going to listen to this girl. This is just going to be a mismatch. All of these chemical related workers, blue collar workers, they're just not going to understand anything she says. And you stood up and started talking, and they were mesmerized because you were honest and you were passionate. And I'll never forget that, Cheryl, is how you touched that room. And so I guess you just say, as far as live well, us guys that thought we knew everything learned the power of being honest and listening to what people have truly in their minds and their hearts. So that's how we ended up with Live Well.
Yeah, I remember that day too. And I remember I decided, should I share a little bit about my background that day? Because my background was I had developed high blood pressure and was facing prediabetes diagnosis. And that was a pivotal time for me. So I feel like it does help a lot of the times when I do talk as a coach with somebody to understand, hopefully, and not that I'm perfect, but that this person has come up against those roadblocks and those challenges and was able to make a shift and make a change and turn her health around. And so that, to me, that's what it is that what you say, the live well piece is meeting, that opportunity to meet somebody where they are and get to know them and help them walk that road together.
And I think it is so influential today that when we have 7 minutes for the doctor to see you and you have a nurse or physician assistant, and then you see the doctor for a few minutes, but the whole time he or she is looking at a keyboard because they are having to do the electronic medical record. To have somebody listen to you honestly without judging is a rarity. It's hard to do at home. Yes. I mean, where do you get somebody to actually honestly listen to you? So we learned as a process that you had to do what you guys do and get
that personal touch, right?
Yeah. And the
That
passion,
for
and I will say about the whole team, we're all passionate about this.
Mhm.
I don't know where it comes from. It happens, but we're not only talented, but we're really passionate about this issue.
Yes, absolutely. And so tell me, as you go back to before starting Doable Health, which started out as eHop Health, at what point in your career or at what point in your life did you realize and something was off and began to start to question what was going on in the, conventional medical model?
I would say, first of all, the conventional medical model really works acutely, and the things that are so gravely, like my friend who's in
Mm, yes.
pulmonary hepatic failure. I
Mhm.
mean, if we didn't have that resource, so many people would die prematurely. So
Mhm.
recognize that. That I think when we looked at the data and we looked at the backgrounds of some of the people who spoke on behalf of the way it was, and we started to look at what was happening, i.e., you would say, okay, you have symptoms of high blood pressure. So we have got this new medicine. You take this, and I'll see you in 6 weeks. And it becomes a recurrent revenue stream without
Mhm.
thinking about it. I don't think doctors go into medicine to create a current revenue stream. I don't want anybody to misunderstand this, but that's what happens, whether it's the
Mhm.
doctor or the hospital or whomever. And
Yeah.
we've heard this from people within is that our program threatens a recurrent revenue stream. So, because what do? You referenced it earlier. We need to look at the root cause to see if we can change why you have blood pressure problems, not just give you a pill that you don't know how much costs because the insurance company and the PBM and the manufacturer have rebates set up. All you do is pay $10. You say it only costs $10 when it
Mhm.
actually costs $300. So, but somebody else is paying it. So, at any rate, that's when, you know, I said, wait a minute. You have to look deeper. You have to look at all these connections. You got to look at how much time people have. And you got to say, if that CFO of that practice or that hospital is saying to the doctor, you're not seeing enough people, you need to increase the number of people. You can't ask root cause questions.
Yeah, because you're going to open up a whole host of other things that you don't have time for.
Yep. And you don't have time. So it's easier to say, hey, here's a prescription. And that's what happened. So that was the kind of the pivotal moment for me. And I've always been a bit of a contrarian. So
Mhm.
Cheryl, I don't want you to think that I've always followed the lemons to the edge of the cliff, or maybe I was leading the lemons to the end of the cliff. I'm not sure, but I've always been a bit of a contrarian, which helped.
Yeah. Just questioning the way things are done. And you're right. The way things are done when you are having an acute issue and there is clearly something that needs to be treated right away, response is great within that model. But when you're dealing with a chronic issue or you don't fit in the box, that's where there is a feeling that people just get really stuck and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go at that point.
Or your lab work is, quote, normal.
Yes,
Tests that were gotten are normal. Therefore, it's all in your head.
that's right. Yeah. So you must be fine, right? If your tests are normal.
Yeah.
Yet you're still sitting there and you don't feel well. So, in the past few years, as Doable Health has served employees, so we started out as a company that served companies and the employees, but recently we've moved into first responder health and wellness. Tell us a little bit about how Doable got started with that, and what are the biggest needs you're seeing in that population?
Well, and I just came from a meeting of police chiefs in North Carolina. And the backstory is interesting. The chief of police in Jacksonville, North Carolina, Chief Mike Yanero, the first time I met him, he walked up to me and said, your program won't work for us. Our police are different. He then got coached. He then had one of our health coaches for a year. And at the end of that, he came back and said, create a program for us because George Floyd had died. The communities were all in an uproar. And he said, we need some support. We need some help. And I think guys can do it. And that started it. And then we began to understand that these guys and girls are really the guardians of our peace. And yet they're paid poorly and they don't get much support. And they have to walk in to the most difficult situations you and I could ever imagine. And as we got to know them, they told us the stories behind what the news repeated and reported. And as a surgeon who cut into the body and was used to the trauma to the body from a scalpel or some cancer, the stories they told, I could not imagine dealing with, yet they dealt with them often. They didn't know who was going to shoot at them. They'd go home, nobody was there to decompress them. So as one of the officers told me in a meeting, there are two things you have to remember, Doc. Number one, we don't trust anybody. Number two, we hate change. So as we have gone, we have realized they need a lot of help to the point that we now have a retired police officer, Mac, working with us. And today, one of the police chiefs walked up and said to me, you don't know how much it means to us for you to have this guy here. Because peer support, the ability to unload, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Who are you going to be honest with? You're going to be honest with your chief? Yeah. Are you a psychologist if you have one? It's a tough choice. Yet they're dealing with all this stuff. And now with the younger generation, they're looking for something totally different. We have something that's innovative. We have something that's built on new technology. We have a way to attract the new recruits into this system because what they're doing is so valuable to our society. And I know there's noise about, they're bad apples, whether they're doctors or health coaches or police officers or firemen. But 99% of these people are there to help you.
Yes.
It's our passion to try to help them.
I heard a statistic recently, something like for every negatively reported story in the media about law enforcement and for mostly law enforcement, there are 20 good stories to go right beside of it, but we don't hear those stories. So it is, as we know, sometimes the good doesn't come out. The good that's being done doesn't come out. And these people risk their lives every single day, yet they are not able to have a way to process through those traumatic situations. And sometimes they have multiple in a day, and then they have to just go right to the next call.
About how polarized people are today.
Yes.
How angry. I mean, post-COVID, there's anxiety and the depression and anger. And so when you say something I don't like, I get angry and say, well, that's wrong. And and I label you somehow.
Yes.
So every policeman, I hate them. They're bad people. They killed George. And so it is a lot to overcome. There's a lot of work to be done here, Cheryl. And I'm very proud that we're in the middle of it, trying to help, trying to solve issues.
What are a few of the key things that you feel we're able to offer to employees in first responder communities that makes Dooable different than some of the other health and wellness programs?
Well, I think you've touched on, we've been talking about one. I think that personal touch, you were giving a workshop, I think last week or 2 weeks ago at a company, and their CFO told me, man, that sure was a great workshop that you got together their employees. So we want them to know us. We want them to feel like they know us well enough to be honest with us. And so one of the big differences is, I think, that one, we take that personal approach. Two, we have a lot of different talents. And I think those talents blend themselves into not only a kind of a scientific approach to all this, but where we look at data, and I'm constantly reading that we're, taking a medical perspective of it. We're in that humanistic approach. We're taking that live well piece and we're saying, you can eat well and you can move well, but guess what? Until you are happy with yourself, none of that other is going to make a lot of difference because you've got to embrace yourself. So I think the talents we have that we've developed, and I'm so incredibly proud of our team that has just blossomed as they have embraced. You and I were just talking about your work with understanding gangs and understanding human trafficking. You are certified in helping with grants. We have a coach that is a fabulous movement instructor and trainer, and she's gone out and gotten certified in critical incidents for the law enforcement. We've got a member that runs 100-mile races.
Oh, boy.
Think about it.
Dr. Joe, I hope we never have to do that as a team. Train for an ultra marathon.
I ain't running. I ain't doing that. But I'll watch. We have the director of coaching is an integrated health practitioner, level 2, that can get the labs that look into those root causes that the labs at my internist don't even begin to approach. So we can put all of that together as well as our first responder program. And I think that is pretty unique.
Yeah. That holistic view of a person, taking into account not just what they're eating, right? Not just how they're exercising, but how they're sleeping, how they're laughing, how they're enjoying their time off, and helping them to find answers if they're dealing with something that they haven't been able to get an answer for. So thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. And as we wrap up, if you had 2 minutes to say anything and you had the attention of the entire world, what would you say?
First thing I'd say is 2 minutes not long enough because I can't say anything in 2 minutes because I get carried away. So that's the first thing I'd say. You know what I'd say? I'd say we need to stop the noise. We need to get off of social media. We need to pause. We need to shut down our smartphone. We need to listen to the sounds of the wind, of the birds, eliminate the noise that we're all confronted with 24/7 almost. And I think we need to learn how to listen to our hearts. I think we've forgotten that. I think we've gotten away from that. I think we need to find community. If you look at the so-called blue zones where people live the longest, that community piece is critical.
Yes.
And we need to learn how to listen to one another again. We need to understand those in our community and the other communities. Instead of attacking constantly, we need to learn how to listen. So I guess I would say lastly, we need to use our talents not only to benefit ourselves and our families, we need to use our talents to benefit others.
Yes.
And I think inherently it's something we want to do. We've gotten away from it. And I think it's really like Dionne Warwick sings, what the world needs now is love.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that simple. And love can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But we need to shut down the noise. That's
We-
what I'm trying.
We've gotten distracted and we've gotten isolated, and we've got the stress of hearing the news 24/7, and what that does to us, we don't even understand. So I love those thoughts. Thank you again for sharing with us today.
Well,
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed hearing from Dr. Joe Jenkins today, please like and follow, and you can find us at www.doable.com. As we wrap up another insightful episode of Making Health Doable, we want to express our gratitude to you for joining us on this journey toward better health and wellness.
At Doable Health, we're not just a podcast. We're a dedicated team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts.
And together, we're on a mission to serve employees and first responders, providing coaching workshops and masterclasses tailored to conquer the challenges of stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our commitment doesn't stop there. We're also passionate about improving wellness for individuals like you, offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because at the end of the day, whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual striving for better health, we're all human. And we firmly believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So as you go about your day, remember that you're not alone on your journey toward wellness. We're here to support you, encourage you, and provide you with the tools you need to thrive.
So stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, expert insights, and actionable advice in our future episodes. Be sure to like and subscribe on your podcast platform.
And don't forget to visit our website at doable.com, DOOABLE.com, for additional resources and updates. Until next time, remember that health is within reach.
And together we can make it doable.